Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
The jury in the Derek Chauvin trial reaches a verdict, guilty on all counts. Chauvin was charged with second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter in connection with the death of George Floyd on May 25, 2020. The jury deliberating last night for about 4 hours, then coming back early this morning, getting back to work behind closed doors and reaching their conclusion today. That 12-person jury was made up of 6 people who are white, 4 who are black, and 2 who are multiracial. 3 other officers who were fired who assisted in restraining Floyd are scheduled to be tried in August on charges of aiding and abetting murder and manslaughter. Again, Derek Chauvin has been found guilty on all 3 counts in the death of George Floyd. A hotel in Corning is offering families a chance to get together after being separated during the pandemic. Matt Kleindienst is in Corning with the perks of the deal.
Scott, good evening. The Radisson in Corning is allowing families to get together in a safe environment after a year of social isolation. As the positivity rate of COVID cases continues to decrease and more people get vaccinated, the Radisson in Corning is offering a reprieve for families isolated during the pandemic.
We basically just want to create memorable experiences for families here in the Corning and local area.
The Grandparents Reunion Package allows grandparents and grandkids to reunite and spend time together in a safe environment. The package includes overnight accommodations, reserved pool time, and snack and dinner amenities.
This past year has been so hard for everyone, and so we just want to have our guests enter our doors and feel so comfortable and safe and relaxed.
Kristen Morsman says it's important to give families the opportunity to catch up in this home away from home atmosphere.
Swim, eat, drink, just relax and celebrate each other and celebrate maybe some of those memories that they have missed over the past year.
The Radisson is offering this package until July 5th. Matt Kleindienst, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
Governor Cuomo is continuing to ease capacity restrictions at certain venues throughout the state. Starting next Monday, zoos and museums can increase their capacity to 50%. Movie theaters will be allowed to increase capacity to 33%. And by May 19th, large indoor arenas can operate at 25% capacity. This announcement comes as New York's COVID positivity rate decreased to its lowest point since November. More fallout for the troubled Johnson & Johnson coronavirus vaccine. We're learning that the FDA has ordered the vaccine maker to suspend production after an issue at a Baltimore facility. This comes after the CDC paused the rollout as it looks into reports of severe reactions to the vaccine. Steve Nannis has a closer look.
Another setback for Johnson & Johnson. Emergent Biosolutions has paused any new manufacturing of the J&J coronavirus vaccines at this Baltimore plant at the request of the FDA, but the company did not say why. The move comes as the administering of Johnson & Johnson shots remains on hold in the U.S. The CDC and the FDA making the decision due to the potential for rare but life-threatening blood clots.
These have been a handful of cases, not an overwhelming number of cases.
Federal health officials revealing they originally considered simply issuing a warning about this, but settled on pausing the rollout. Now the CDC director says they're investigating before deciding how to proceed.
We are working through and adjudicating them and verifying whether they do in fact reflect a true case. And that will be the work of the CDC this week as well as the FDA.
Meanwhile, President Joe Biden's chief medical advisor, Dr. Anthony Fauci, predicts Johnson & Johnson's vaccine will come back on the market with restrictions or warnings by Friday.
I don't want to get ahead of the CDC and the FDA and the advisory committee, but I would imagine that what we will see is that it would come back in some sort of either warning or restriction.
In an email statement, Emergent Biosolutions said the inspection is ongoing and it's working with the FDA and Johnson & Johnson to strengthen the supply chain. In Washington, I'm Steve Nannis reporting.
The manhunt is over. Authorities have apprehended the employee suspected of opening fire inside a busy Long Island grocery store this morning, killing at least 1 person and injuring 2 others. Alex Hogan is in West Hempstead with the story.
I heard, I guess, the shots fired, maybe 4 or 5 shots, and then everybody started running around upstairs.
Terrifying moments for hundreds of shoppers as a gunman opened fire at a Stop and Shop grocery store on Long Island in New York on Tuesday.
His name is Gabriel DeWitt Wilson.
According to police, the suspected shooter entered the store with a small handgun and began shooting inside the manager's office upstairs from the sales floor.
When he showed up to work today, he went straight down to an office on the 2nd floor. At that time, he shot a male and a female victim. Both of those victims are recovering now at a local hospital. And then he went down to a second office where he shot and killed one of the managers of the building.
A 49-year-old male is deceased. Authorities say Wilson worked at the Stop and Shop. The shooter fled the scene, prompting a manhunt. The store was evacuated and nearby schools were placed on lockdown, and area residents were told to remain inside.
The subject is now under arrest, and the homicide investigation will continue.
The president of Stop and Shop releasing a statement in part saying, quote, "Our hearts go out to the families of the victims, our associates, customers, and the first responders who have responded heroically to this tragic situation. At this time, we are cooperating fully with local law enforcement on the investigation." Police do not yet have a motive for this shooting, but are investigating this tragic situation. In West Hampstead, New York, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
A suspect is being charged with first-degree homicide after a mass shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin. That suspect is currently only facing 1 charge, but more are expected since 3 people were killed and 3 others injured. Hillary Mintz has the details.
Mr. Vinson, are you able to hear what's going on in this hearing at this point, sir?
Yes, sir.
24-year-old Rakayo Vincent of Racine is the man prosecutors say shot 6 people, killing 3 of them at the packed Summers House Tavern early Sunday morning.
Mr. Vincent had been involved in a bumping in the tavern. Again, this was really a shoulder-to-shoulder situation. That had resulted in a fight occurring where Mr. Vincent had certainly been punched in a fight in the tavern. This was literally over nothing. This was literally over a very minor dispute.
Investigators say employees tossed Vincent out, but he came back inside and opened fire.
The first 2 people that passed died inside the bar. The third one was shot in gunfire outside the bar east of Sheridan Road across the street.
The sheriff says that victim may have fired back at the suspect but died from his injuries. And that shootout caught on a doorbell camera. Those 3 men, Cedric Gaston, Akeem Stevenson, and Kevin Donaldson.
When asked, well, are you the shooter, sort of questions, he indicated, and the quote I have is, "I blacked out and it went down."
These people were targeted, so at the level that he knew these 3 people, it may just be that there was a confrontation in that location and he knew he was coming in for those 3 people.
After the mass shooting, Sheriff Beth says Vincent took off and wound up in Racine, stole a relative's car, which ultimately led to his arrest by Mount Pleasant police. He's being held on $4 million cash bond and is expected to be charged with intentional homicide for all 3 victims and attempted homicide for those who survived.
It's a huge puzzle, an absolutely huge puzzle, and we're trying to put all the pieces together so we can put our suspect away for the rest of his life.
The 21-year-old man, who prosecutors say was with Adam Toledo the night the 13-year-old was shot and killed by police, is now out of jail. But he didn't pay the $40,000 bond. A local organization did. Charlie DeMar reports.
Prosecutors say Ruben Roman is the man who 13-year-old Adam Toledo was with in the final moments of his life. Roman is accused of firing the shots that sent police to the scene, allegedly captured on surveillance and audio recordings. Officers knocked Roman down during the chase in the alley.
Put your hands behind your back.
He was arrested. Officer Eric Stillman continued down the alley where Toledo was shot and killed. Roman faces felonies, including child endangerment, reckless discharge, and a probation violation. He's out on bond at home on electronic monitoring.
We often prioritize cases that are connected to social justice movements, including especially the movement to end police violence.
Kisa Reynolds currently leads the Chicago Community Bond Fund. The organization pays bonds for those who can't afford to pay on their own. They bonded Roman out of jail, putting up $40,000.
We made the decision to postpone for Mr. Roman because we are aware that the city will continue to use him as a scapegoat for the killing of Adam Toledo, which was committed by the Chicago Police Department.
At a hearing Monday, the judge commented on the large amount of money posted on his behalf, saying, quote, "A lot of people sitting in jail could use some of that money, I bet."
Other people's bonds will not go unpaid simply because we paid Mr. Roman's. With high-profile cases like this one, it becomes even more important that somebody enjoys the presumption of innocence.
Still ahead tonight, parents in a Texas town come together after some white students were caught pretending to sell their black classmates online.
This is who we have allowed ourselves to become through inaction.
Why some feel the school district isn't doing enough when it comes to racism in its schools.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Mattar. Good evening, everyone. I'm meteorologist Kim Walker with your weather update. For the rest of the evening, temperatures will be in the 40s, at least through your midnight hour, and then overnight we drop down into the 30s, close to freezing as we head into early tomorrow morning. There is a storm system. The center of it will start to ride over the Twin Tiers. As it does so, it is going to pull in a lot of cold air. We are located on the west side of it, and that's the colder side of this low. And so not only is it going to be cold, but it could be a little bit on the breezy side as well. It makes those temperatures feel so much colder. So we could start off with a wintry mix, changing over to snow later on in the afternoon. So the snow will continue to spread to the north by around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It looks like it will arrive in our area. There will be some hometowns that could pick up about 1 or 2 inches before the system moves out. But during the day tomorrow, temperatures will be mainly above freezing. 37 degrees at 8 o'clock, and then we warm up to around 40 degrees by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that will be all in the form of showers. But heading into the latter part of the day, there could be a little bit of snow mixing in. So for tonight, there could be a few showers, maybe even some moderate rain near Elmira at around 11 o'clock or at the midnight hour, and then a wintry mix early tomorrow morning as those temperatures will hover near the freezing mark from Corning to Hornell. But then we switch over to snow as colder air starts to move in. And then in the latter part of the day, as those temperatures cool back down, it looks like lows, or I should say readings, will be in the 30s for the most part in the afternoon. So there could be some snow mixing in with some rain, but then switching to snow in the overnight as those temperatures plunge down to below freezing. So our chances of snow will last through the evening hours into early Thursday. It will be cold on Thursday with that low coming through and then pushing off to the east. So our snow chances will continue through the day on Thursday, but I think by the end of the day, it should move out. Tonight, 35 degrees are low in Corning and also in Elmira. There will be a few showers mixing in with some snow. During the day tomorrow, we do warm up to around 40 degrees in Elmira, 38 in Corning. That will leave us with mainly rain. However, as those temperatures plunge down into the 20s overnight, we are expecting the possibility of a few snow showers early on Thursday. Highs around 44 degrees, and then a little bit drier conditions on Friday. We do warm up into the 50s after starting off in the 30s on Friday. And then from there, we warm up to around 65 on Saturday. Another storm system will bring the rain chances back by Sunday, but we dry out by early next week.
Parents concerned about a mock online slave trade packed a Dallas area school board meeting Monday night. They wanted to know what the district is doing to address racism in their schools. Brooke Katz has more.
This is who we have allowed ourselves to become through inaction.
With a standing room only crowd watching, tough conversations Monday night in Aledo.
What are you going to do with this?
And how are we going to be better?
For those in attendance, there was no conversation more important or urgent than race.
We have to get comfortable with having uncomfortable conversations.
Tonight's meeting comes on the heels of white students pretending to sell their black classmates in an online slave trade auction. The district launched an investigation, but many, including one of the students targeted in that racist act, say it's not nearly enough.
Now I'm asking the Board of Trustees and the Superintendent, when will you make the changes needed to ensure all of us feel treated fairly and safe?
One mom says she'll never forget what happened to one of her sons in a separate incident when he was tackled to the ground during a neighborhood game.
As he lay with his face pressed into the cement, he pleaded with them to get off of him. He told them he couldn't breathe. He laid there hopeless, hoping somebody would step in. As he struggled to break free, one of the children said, "Hey, put your knee on his neck. Put your knee on his neck."
She wants to see the school district take the lead.
Let's sit in the discomfort of these events for as long as it takes to drive and affect change.
Life-saving skills learned at the age of 2. A toddler in Florida is able to save himself from a near-drowning experience. Waukesha Bailey has the story.
I know what could have happened. Like, that's when I get emotional. Like, I realize how bad it could have been. I mean, if we hadn't heard the splash and he hadn't had swim lessons, I don't know if he'd be here.
Kyle is only 2 years old, and he saved himself from almost drowning last week in his family's pool.
The late second, we heard a splash.
Kyle's mother, Tracy Siegel, says their home is undergoing renovations. As a result, the pool fence has been removed, and Kyle's older brother left the door open. That led to the pool, and out the door Kyle went.
We saw Kyle float to the top, roll on his back, and swim to the edge of the pool and get out, himself fully clothed.
Kyle's swimming instructor, Tony Anacapanelli, gives Kyle a high five after he demonstrated effortlessly the roll back and float method that also saved his life.
So we teach lessons through sensory motor and through water levels in the water and through touch.
Anna Capanelli is a certified infant resource instructor. She's taught hundreds of babies to swim and float at her infant swimming resource swim school in Royal Palm Beach.
Due to COVID and everything, he was out of lessons for quite a while. He came back to me for about 4 lessons. It was about a year lapse, and he still maintained the skills that he was taught a year prior.
She says it takes repetition and commitment from parents like Siegel and, of course, Kyle.
Mr. Robine.
As more Americans get vaccinated, many of us are really looking forward to hitting the road again. But travel experts say many cars have been idle during the pandemic and should be serviced for safety first. Mandy Gaither has some tips on what you should get checked.
As the weather heats up, so does business at some local car repair shops.
What a difference a year makes.
Last year at United Tire and Service in Pennsylvania, it was quiet, but now business is booming. Company president Greg Minaw says many customers are gearing up for a road trip.
Our service bays are busier, our teams are busier. It definitely feels like we're back to normal.
AAA says road trips continue to be the preferred way to travel in the U.S. If your car has been sitting in your driveway for the past year, it might need a checkup. If you have a favorite mechanic, check to see if there are any changes to how the business operates in the pandemic. And appointments are encouraged, according to David Bennett, AAA's repair systems manager.
Is there a contactless drop-off where you can just pull up, drop the keys off, let them know, or is there a drop box where you put the keys? So you want to know the process.
Bennett says there are 4 main things a mechanic should inspect. Your battery, without use, it might have a lower life expectancy. Your hoses, make sure they're not dried out or cracked. Your tires, make sure they're inflated and not worn. And get your fluid levels checked. Make sure they're clean and filled.
Some of those are the oil, the transmission fluid, power steering fluid, brake fluid are the 4 most common that you want to take a look at.
And if you're hitting the road, don't wait until the last minute to head to a mechanic.
You should be 2 weeks or so in advance of a trip, getting everything prepared on the car, make sure it's right before making a trip.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And speaking of cars, Toyota is taking another step toward helping the environment. The automaker plans to introduce 15 battery electric cars worldwide by the year 2025. Its new series is called the BZ, and a concept version of it was displayed at a motor show in China. Toyota says these BEVs will help reduce carbon dioxide emissions. That's an effort Toyota has been working toward since 1993, when it launched the G21 project, which focused on proposing cars that were determined to be necessary by the world. People all around the globe have put trillions of dollars in savings since the start of the pandemic. That's according to Moody's Analytics. It reports that worldwide, consumers have saved an extra $5.4 trillion, with Americans putting aside $2.6 trillion. Many wealthier households were able to build up their savings because their incomes have not been affected by the pandemic. Add to that, they weren't able to spend as much on travel, dining, or entertainment. Experts believe this sets the stage for a spending boom and economic growth this year. A railway worker becomes famous after a heart-stopping moment of heroism is caught on camera. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
Terrifying video surveillance from Mumbai shows the moment a child was pulled from the path of a speeding train. The child was with his mother, who is blind, when he slipped and fell onto the tracks. A railway worker can be seen sprinting into view and pulling the child to safety mere moments before the train zooms by. No one was injured in the incident. The railway worker is receiving loads of praise on social media, including from India's Minister of Railways, who called the rescue an exceptionally courageous act.
Hey boy, what are you doing up in there?
Watch rescuers free a terrified dog from the undercarriage of a truck. Look at that face. The German Shepherd, named Booger, climbed underneath the vehicle during a storm. Booger's owner spotted his tail sticking out and realized he was trapped. The 2-year-old pup was so frightened, he snapped at rescuers during the operation. Once they sedated and muzzled the dog, they were able to work to free him, but not before having to remove the truck's drive shaft and sway bar. Booger's owner says he's doing well and appreciates all involved in the rescue.
Poor fella. He's down for the count.
Sometimes the right rescue is simply about leading the way. Just take a gander at this wayward family of geese in Las Vegas being given a personal police escort to safety. Nevada Highway Patrol officers ushered them off a busy roadway with a verbal warning for obstructing traffic. Then the fine feathered family was pointed in the direction of a nearby golf course. For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. Here's your chance to buy an entire town. Yeah, that's right. For $2.7 million, you can own the tiny town of Nipton, California, population 25. The town had been slated to become a cannabis consumption destination for people looking to get away, but that idea went bust, and the pandemic added further pain and forced a foreclosure. The town's current owner does believe there's a bright future for Nipton. 30 years ago, her late husband bought the town, hoping to revive it into a modern, green, and sustainable community. She hopes a new owner would still attempt something similar. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.